You are walking alone in the woods when a mountain lion jumps from the brush, but instead of fleeing, a massive grizzly bear charges the cat to save you. It sounds like a scene from a fairy tale, but it happens more often than you think. Why would a wild animal risk its life to protect a creature that isn't even its own species? The answer lies deep in the biology of empathy. We often think of protection as a human trait, but it is hardwired into the survival mechanisms of many mammals. It starts with a simple, powerful chemical, oxytocin. Often called the love hormone, oxytocin is responsible for the bond between mother and child. It triggers a protective instinct so strong that it overrides the fear of death. But here is the fascinating part. This mechanism isn't strictly species specific. It is triggered by specific physical cues. Think about a human baby. Big eyes, a rounded face, a high pitched cry, and clumsy movements. Scientists call these neotenous features. We are evolutionarily programmed to respond to these cues with a desire to nurture. Now, consider a golden retriever. When a dog looks at you with those wide, soulful eyes, it is actually hacking your brain. Research published in the journal Science in 2015 showed that when dogs and humans lock eyes, both species experience a massive spike in oxytocin. It is the same feedback loop that occurs between a human mother and her infant. In 1996, a 3-year-old boy named Binti Jua changed the way we look at primates forever. At the Brookfield Zoo in Illinois, the young boy fell 18 feet into the gorilla enclosure. He was unconscious and surrounded by 7 large gorillas. Instead of attacking, a female gorilla named Binti Jua scooped the child up. She cradled him against her chest and carried him to the gate, keeping the other gorillas at bay. She was a mother herself at the time, and her protective instinct kicked in instantly. She didn't see a stranger. She saw a helpless, small creature in distress. This behavior is called interspecies altruism. It's rare, but it is documented across the animal kingdom. Dolphins are perhaps the most famous practitioners. There are hundreds of documented cases of dolphins forming a protective ring around swimmers to shield them from shark attacks. Why do they do it? Dolphins are hypersocial. They live in pods where cooperation is the difference between life and death. When they see a human struggling in the water, their natural instinct is to assist. They view the struggling human as a member of the pod that needs help, regardless of the fact that we have 2 legs and they have fins. The same applies to the way our pets protect us. Your dog does not just see you as a food source, they see you as their pack leader or their offspring. When you come home and your dog wags its tail, that is more than just excitement. It is a biological reinforcement of the social bond. If you were to show signs of distress, most dogs would intervene. They are constantly monitoring your heartbeat, your scent, and your facial expressions for danger. But why do they protect us like their own babies? It comes down to the concept of alloparenting. This is when members of a group help raise offspring that are not their own. Many animals, like wolves, elephants, and primates, engage in this. It ensures the survival of the group. In the case of humans, we have spent tens of thousands of years co-evolving with animals. We have literally shaped the behavior of dogs through selective breeding. We favored the animals that showed empathy and loyalty, effectively selecting for genes that prioritize the protection of humans. Look at the case of Lulu, a pot-bellied pig in 1998. When her owner, Jo Ann Altsman, suffered a heart attack in her yard, Lulu didn't just sit there. She squeezed through a dog door, walked into the middle of a busy road, and laid down to block traffic. She stayed there until a driver stopped to investigate. She then led the man back to her owner. Lulu saved a life because she recognized a change in her owner's behavior and responded with an instinctual protective urge. The scientific consensus is that these animals possess something called theory of mind. This is the ability to attribute mental states, beliefs, intents, desires, emotions to oneself and others. For a long time, we thought this was uniquely human. We now know it exists in elephants, whales, and dogs. They know that you are frightened, they know that you are injured, and in their own way, they decide that your life is worth protecting. This challenges our entire perspective on the animal kingdom. We spend so much time focusing on the survival of the fittest, the brutal reality of nature, and the predator prey relationship. We forget that the bedrock of survival is actually cooperation. Without the protective instincts of our ancestors, humans would not have survived the Pleistocene. We relied on the pack, we relied on the group. And it seems that some animals, through a stroke of evolutionary luck, have included us in their group. But there is a darker, more philosophical side to this. If animals protect us like their own babies, are we being fair to them? We keep them in cages, we alter their environments, and we often treat them as commodities. If a gorilla understands that a human child is a vulnerable being worth saving, doesn't that imply a level of moral agency we haven't given them credit for? The next time your cat purrs against your neck or your dog rests its head on your knee during a storm, recognize it for what it is. It is not just an animal looking for comfort, it is an evolutionary guardian. It is a creature that has decided that your survival is linked to its own. Perhaps the most startling aspect of this is the sheer variety of species involved. It isn't just mammals. There are cases of humpback whales protecting seals from orcas. It seems the instinct to protect the vulnerable is a fundamental law of biology, written into the DNA of the most complex creatures on Earth. We like to think of ourselves as the dominant species, the ones who decide which animals matter and which do not. But when a wild animal makes the split-second decision to sacrifice its safety for yours, the power dynamic shifts. In those moments, you are not the master. You are the vulnerable child, and they are the protectors. Nature is not just a place of teeth and claws. It is a place of bonds, of recognition, and of mercy. The fact that an animal would choose to save you, a creature of a completely different species, is a testament to the fact that empathy is not a human invention. It is a universal language spoken in heartbeats, protective gazes, and the willingness to stand between a loved one and a threat. We are all connected by the same biological imperatives: the drive to keep our young safe, the urge to support the weak, and the necessity of the pack. When we see an animal protecting a human, we aren't just seeing a cute video or an odd story. We are seeing a mirror. We are seeing the proof that at the most basic level, life values life. What does it say about the state of our world when the most savage creatures are the ones showing the most compassion? Perhaps it is time we stopped looking at animals as objects to be managed and started looking at them as partners in the survival of this planet. After all, if they are willing to protect us as their own, shouldn't we be doing the same for them? Maybe the true secret of our survival isn't our intelligence or our technology. Maybe it's the fact that in a cold, vast, and often dangerous universe, we have never truly been alone. We are surrounded by other beating hearts, other protective instincts, and other creatures that, against all logic and survival instinct, choose to put us first. So, why do they protect us? Because they recognize something in us that we often lose sight of in ourselves. They recognize that we are part of their family, and in their world, family is the only thing that truly matters.